والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. In light of our previous two classes regarding the rulings of an itikaf, we've reached the section in which the author says, Sawmul Mu'takif. With regards to, is it a must for one who's performing the itikaf to be fasting or not? We know that there's a relation between the two, as we've explained. But is it a must? Meaning, let's say there was a pregnant woman who wanted to make itikaf. And she's not going to fast because she's pregnant. And she needs the nourishment for her body, for her child. Or a breastfeeding woman. Or let's say a traveler wanted to make itikaf. And he chose not to fast. Or someone who's sick. Or a mujahid fi sabilillah. Or anything like this. The person is not fasting. Is fasting a condition for there to be itikaf? Everybody clear on this? One may fast outside of Ramadan and make itikaf. It's possible. Shawwal, it's possible. Monday, Thursday, whatever the case may be, it's possible. 3 white days. These are all possibilities. But is it a condition for there to be Sawm and itikaf, or can there be itikaf without Sawm? Everybody understand this? This is a pivotal point with regards to the fiqh of al-itikaf. Do you have to be fasting to do? The author rahimahullah says, Al-mu'takifu in sama fahasin wa lam yasum fala shay'a alayhi. He says it's a good thing to do. There's nothing wrong with it, fasting. Tayyib, hasan. And if he doesn't fast while making the itikaf, then there's no sin. And it doesn't mean that the itikaf is invalid. روى البخاري عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما أن عمر قال يا رسول الله إني نذرت في الجاهلية أن أعتكف ليلة في المسجد الحرام فقال أوف بنذرك ففي أمر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم له بالوفاء بنذر دليل على أن الصوم ليس شرط في صحة الاعتكاف إذ إنه لا يصح الصيام في الليل. وروى سعيد بن منصور عن أبي سهل قال كان على امرأة من أهل اعتكاف فسألته عمر بن عبد العزيز قال ليس عليها صيام إلا أن تجعله على نفسها فقال الزهري لا اعتكاف إلا بصوم فقال له عمر عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا قال فعن أبي بكر قال لا قال فعن عمر قال لا قال وأظنه قال عن عثمان قال لا فخرجت من عنده فلقيت عطاء وطاووسا فسألتهما فقال طاووس كان فلان لا يرى عليها صياما إلا أن تجعله على نفسها وقال عطاء ليس عليها صيام إلا أن تجعله على نفسها قال الخطابي وقد اختلف الناس في هذا فقال الحسن البصري إن اعتكف من غير صيام أجزاء وإليه ذهب الشافعي وروي عن علي وابن مسعود أنهما قال إن شاء صام وإن شاء أفطر وقال الأوزاعي ومالك لا اعتكاف إلا بصوم وهو مذهب أهل الرأي وروي ذلك عن ابن عمر وابن عباس وعائشة وقول سعيد بن المسيب وعروة بن الزبير والزهري. He says that there's a hadith in Sahih Bukhari to support the position that he just mentioned, that it's not a condition, that you can make it itikaf without fasting, whether it's mandatory fasting or recommended fasting. And that is the narration that we previously mentioned in Sahih Bukhari, narrated by Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, that one day Umar said, O Messenger of Allah, before I was a Muslim, I made a vow, I made a nadhr, and that was to make i'tikaf one night in Al-Masjid Al-Haram. In Al-Masjid Al-Haram. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Oh, fi bi nadhrik, he says, fulfill your vow. You're a Muslim now, keep the vow that you made. It's a good thing. So the author says, when the Prophet ﷺ told him to keep his vow, to fulfill his vow, he never said that you have to fast. Let alone the fact that making i'tikaf at nighttime, there is no fasting at night. The asl. A woman can make wisal, continual fast, but that's not the default. So he says, so the highlighting proof in this hadith is that the Prophet ﷺ, he told him to take the nadhr, the vow, fulfill the vow, and he never made fasting a condition for i'tikaf. Is everybody with me so far? Everybody with me so far? Everybody clear? He said that it's not a condition to fast based off of that hadith. He mentions here another proof or a sub-proof, and that is a narration from some of the pious predecessors. Sa'id ibn Mansur, who was a hadith collector, like Imam al-Bukhari, obviously before, Sa'id ibn Mansur, he has a narration that he collects in his Sunan. And it goes back to Abu Sahl. His name was Abu Sahl. He says, كَانَ عَلَى امْرَأَةٍ مِنْ أَهْلِ اعْتِكَافٌ. He says that one of my women folk had to make i'tikaf for one reason or another. She made a vow on herself. She had to make i'tikaf. It was my wife, my daughter, my sister, our aunt, somebody from my ahl, my family. Okay? He says, so this woman, she had to make i'tikaf. So I went and I asked Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. We all know his status and his ilm from the pious predecessors, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. I asked him, can she make i'tikaf? Does she have to be fasting, etc.? Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he said, لَيْسَ عَلَيْهَا صِيَامٌ إِلَّا أَن تَجْعَلَهُ عَلَى نَفْسِهَا. He says that she doesn't have to fast unless that was part of the original deal. Unless that was part of the original contract that she made with Allah. That I'm going to make i'tikaf and I'm going to fast. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he said to Abu Sahl, she doesn't have to fast. She can make i'tikaf without fasting. But another tabi'i, another student of the companions, whose name was Az-Zuhri, we all know his status, or you should know his status, the ilm of Zuhri, he says rather she has to be fasting. It's a must for her to make i'tikaf, she has to be fasting. So the man, he says, he asked Zuhri, he says, An Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, is this from the Prophet? You have a hadith supporting this view? He said, no. He said, from Abu Bakr? He said, no. He said, from Umar? He said, no. He said, do you have something from Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu? He said, no, I don't. That was his view. So Abu Sa'd, he went out and he left. It says here, and then I met two other scholars from the Tabi'een. He says, I met Ata and I met Tawus, from the top disciples of Ibn Abbas. We should all know about them. Who Ata was, several different names, or people with the name Ata. But they're all famous. They all had great knowledge, but they're more than one. Ibn Abi Rabah, Yasar, etc. Ata and Tawus, Ibn Kaysan. These are the top guns of Abdullah ibn Abbas' students. He says, so I went out and I asked them both about the issue, about the discussion of the disagreement. Tawus said, there is, كَانَ فُلَانٌ لَا يَرَى عَلَيْهَا صِيَامًا. There's no fasting. She doesn't have to make fast. And Ata said, لَيْسَ عَلَيْهَا صِيَامٌ. He said the same as well, unless she herself made it a part of the original vow. So he's using this as a sub-dalil. The Prophet's hadith has already been mentioned. Now this is an understanding of some of the Salaf al-Salih, some of the pious predecessors with regards to fasting and i'tikaf. Are they a must? Or can one be done without what? Without the other. Al-Khattabi rahimahullah ta'ala wasn't from the Salaf al-Salih. He came later on from the commentators of hadith. He says, وَقَدْ اخْتَلَفَ النَّاسُ فِي هَذَا. He says there is difference of opinion regarding this issue. Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that it's fine for a person to make i'tikaf without fasting. And it was also the view of Imam al-Shafi'i. The view of Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala. And this goes to show us, before we move forward, as we explained in many classes, is that the fiqh issues and their discussions and their debates existed years before the four Imams. Years before the four Imams. So he says, Ata, Tawus, Zuhri, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, Hasan al-Basri, these people all came before what? Shafi'i, Abu Hanifa, Malik, Ahmed. Way before them. These are people who studied with Sahaba. They learned with what? The companions. So it makes no sense for a person to restrict the fiqh into 4 schools. And they say the only fiqh that's considered is in one of the 4 orthodox schools. And if it's not the view of Abu Hanifa, if it's not the view of Malik, Shafi, Ahmed, then there's no use. Or even deeper than that, if it's not the view of their students and pupils, they say it's of no use, it's unorthodox. That makes no what? That makes no sense. Because there was a great deal of fiqh and debate and argumentation, what? Before them. So how can you say after they've come, then it's now obsolete and useless? That makes no sense. Okay? Rather, that is, as we say, backwards. That's backwards. The asr is to start off with the earliest, then work your way up. Everybody understand this? It's to start off with the text, Kitab Sunnah, what the Sahaba said, what the Tabi'een said, وَإِلَيْهِ ذَهَبَ الشَّافِعِي, or Malik or Ahmad. Everybody understand this? Even though oftentimes the views that Shafi'i or Ahmad or Malik or Abu Hanifa take are views of some of the Tabi'een and the Sahaba. Sure. But there are plenty of instances, this book is a perfect prime example, in which you'll find views and opinions from ulama of the Tabi'een and the Sahaba that aren't mentioned by the 4 Imams. And you cannot say it's no good, it's khilaf, shadh, It's shudud. It's not orthodox. That's what? That's incorrect. Everybody clear on this? And to further drive the point home, Ash-Shafi'i rahimahullah or Abu Hanifa, where would these people be if it wasn't for
Sahaba,
Tawus and Ata and this one and that one? It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Everybody clear on this or not? That makes no sense. So therefore he says that was also the view of Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala. He then says, and also Ali radiallahu anhu, Ibn Mas'ud, they said, if a person wishes to fast, then they can. And if they wish not to fast, then what?
They don't have to.
They can do that as well. As far as Imam al-Awza'i, who's from the Tabi'een, from the ulama of Sham, and as far as Imam Malik, then they held the view you cannot make itikaf unless you're fasting. There's no itikaf unless you're what? Fasting. So if a pregnant woman came to the masjid, she cannot make itikaf unless she was what? According to those ulama, and that view, according to that view. And this is the madhab of another group of scholars. And the same rule applies. There's no disrespect to them. And it doesn't mean that their view is unconsidered. The madhab of Ahlul Ra'i, the ulama of the Zahiri madhab. Not just Ibn Hazm. I mean, that's a mistake that people make. The Zahiri way of thinking did not start with Ibn Hazm, nor did it end with Ibn Hazm. Rather, it started years before Ibn Hazm. Rather, one may say the default way of thinking and practicing the deen is to be a literalist. That's the asl. That's the foundation. Is that the texts of the Prophet ﷺ are literal. And what he said is what he said, and that's what it means. And there is no other view or other practice, no other qiyas, unless there's another hadith or a statement to prove that. The asl of Islam, let alone the fiqh in the deen, is for you to be what? A zahiri. That's the asl. Because Allah Azza wa Jalla, He said that the Quran, Tibyanan li kulli shay, is a clarification for all things. He says a clarification for what? For all things. وَقَدْ فَصَّلَ لَكُمْ, Allah says, and He has made clear what is unlawful to you. So the default is that there is no, well, I don't have to do this hadith. I don't have to implement this. Let me look and search for some other qiyas or some other text. That's not the asl. And if the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that the 5 things are haram to eat, then those things remain as haram. There's no 6th or 7th or 8th thing that's haram until proven. Now, there can be proven. The Quran and the Sunnah talk about khamr, wine, being unlawful. And one comes and he says, well, it's nothing wrong with doing heroin because it's not mentioned in the Quran. We say no. We have general proofs, and there's also valid qiyas. Valid qiyas. But if it wasn't for those other general proofs, or the valid qiyas, then the asl would be, the only thing that's haram is what? Wine. That's it. Because that's the only thing the Prophet what? Said. وَمَا كَانَ رَبُّكَ نَسِيًّا. Allah says in Surah Maryam, and your Lord is never forgetful. لَا يُضِلُّ رَبِّي وَلَا يَنْسَى. Allah says in Surah Taha, that my Lord never makes a mistake, and He never forgets. So the default is that the legislation is what? Limited. That's the default. And you don't go outside of that limitation unless there is a proof, an evidence, a need. Everybody clear on this? So the people of the Zahir Madhab, did they make mistakes? Did they do things that were wrong? Were there insufficiencies? No question. Just like the people of Shafi'i, Ahmad, Abu Hanifa, Malik, they made mistakes and there are insufficiencies in their madhabs. And we do not accept the people who bash the Zahiris and say they're unorthodox, they don't belong in the fiqh books. There's no respect for their views or their opinions. If they go against the ijma', then it's useless. That's kalam fadi, kalam batil. Rather, the asl is that hum aqrab an-nas. The literalists are the closest. Then the deficiencies and their shortcomings or incompletions are taken from the other views. Things like that. Everybody understand this? This is a very important point. Is that the Muslim is not some internal philosopher in which there's an internal interpretation of everything. And the default is that what's the interpretation of it? What's the understanding of it? What did Fulan say? What did he say? That's the danger which destroys the fabric of Islam. In which everything becomes metaphoric. Everything becomes what? Figurative. You don't really have to do this. The Prophet meant by that, such and such. You don't really have to pray 5 times a day. The Prophet meant by that, internal what? Purity. It's not really, you're not going to really do things in paradise. The Prophet meant that you'll be happy in Jannah. That's all that figurative, metaphorical way of thinking, which is dangerous. And the asl of aqeedah, of tafsir, of fiqh, of hadith is that it's what? Al-zahir. Literal. And you don't go beyond the text. You don't go what? Beyond the text. Everybody put this, that's the default. And not all the time, but that's the what?
Default.
It's the default. So Ahl al-Zahir, they say that the same view of Imam Malik and Imam al-Awza'i, that you must have fasting with Itikaf. And this view was also mentioned from Ibn Umar, and Abdullah ibn Abbas, and Aisha, Sa'id ibn Musayyib, Urwa ibn Zubayr, and Zuhri, many other Salaf. They have that view as what? As well. So the khulasa, the summary is there's difference of opinion. Some say that you have to, and some that you what? Say that you don't have to. In most cases, a person making an itikaf is going to be connected to what? Fasting, in most cases. Because most Muslims only make itikaf in Ramadan. However, the time of going in the masjid and going outside of the masjid, that now is critical with this issue now. Because if a person says, I'm only going to make itikaf at nighttime, I'm not fasting
in the day.
At night. I'm not fasting where? At nighttime. So based off of that, you're going to have to make a full what? Day of itikaf. You have to make a full what? Full, you guys with me or not? I don't think everybody with me. You have to make a full day of what? Because you have to fast what with your? And you're not going to fast at night. So you're going to fast only when? In the daytime. So there's no partial itikaf based off of that view. There's no what? Everybody clear on this? Because fasting and itikaf have to what? According to that view. Or even more difficult than that, they're going to say fast at nighttime. Make wisal, in which you make a continual fast. Maghrib comes, you don't eat, you don't drink until the next morning. So the first view is simpler. It's easier. It's more convenient for someone who wishes to make a partial i'tikaf. Everybody clear on this or not? Right, moving forward, the next section, the author rahimahullah ta'ala says, وَقْتُ دُخُولِ الْمُعْتَكَفِ وَالْخُرُوجِ مِنْهُ. Now, when should a person go into the masjid to make i'tikaf? And when is a person allowed to leave the masjid with regards to an i'tikaf? When do you start and when do you what? Finish. Crucial point. He says, تقدم أن الاعتكاف المندوب ليس له وقت محدد. فمتى دخل المعتكف المسجد ونوى التقرب إلى الله بالمكث فيه صار معتكفا حتى يخرج. فنوى اعتكاف العشر الأواخر من رمضان فإنه يدخل معتكفه قبل غروب الشمس. We've previously mentioned that the recommended type of i'tikaf has no time limit, no time restriction. We previously mentioned that. Whenever a person enters the masjid and he wishes to get closer to Allah by sitting in the masjid, then he's officially a mu'takif. He's making i'tikaf. As far as if a person wishes to make i'tikaf for the last 10 nights, then he should enter the masjid before sunset. Not after sunset, but when? Before sunset. Most people, they say what? They say Maghrib time, after sunset. He says qabl, before it's dark, before it's time for what? Maghrib. Let me shake. He says enter the masjid when? Before Maghrib. Before Maghrib. فعند البخاري عن أبي سعيد أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من كان اعتكف معي فليعتكف العشر الأواخر والعشر اسم لعدد الليالي وأول الليالي العشر ليلة 21 أو ليلة 20. ما روي أنه صلى الله عليه وسلم كان إذا أراد أن يعتكف صلى الفجر ثم دخل معتكفه فمعناه أنه كان يدخل المكان الذي أعده للاعتكاف في المسجد. أما وقت دخول المسجد في الاعتكاف فقد كان أول الليل. ومن اعتكف العشر الأواخر من رمضان فإنه يخرج بعد غروب الشمس آخر يوم من الشهر عند أبي حنيفة والشافعي. وقال مالك وأحمد أن خرج بعد غروب الشمس أجزاء والمستحب عندهما أن يبقى في المسجد حتى يخرج إلى صلاة العيد. The author says, it states in Sahih Bukhari that Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever is making i'tikaf with me, then he should make i'tikaf in the last 10. And the last 10, they are names for the what? For the nights. The Prophet ﷺ, when he says last 10, he's talking about the last 10 nights and not the last 10 days. Everybody understand this? Just like the first 10 of Dhul Hijjah, not the nights, but the what?
Days.
The days. The ulama, they say the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah are better than the last 10 days of Ramadan. And the last 10 nights of Ramadan are better than the first 10 nights of Dhul Hijjah. He says, so the last 10 is a name for nights. And the beginning of the night is what? Before. It's before the what?
The day.
Before it's over. طيب, to come in and to start working before 9. You have to be working at 9 o'clock. So what time do you have to actually arrive at the place?
Before 9.
Before. You have to put on your uniform. You have to check in, do something, prepare something, because the restaurant opens at 9 o'clock. Or construction or whatever you do. You're expected to be driving the train when?
9 o'clock.
9. So that means you have to be there.
8:30.
Everybody clear on this, on the concept? Everybody got this? He says, rahimahullah ta'ala, and the very first night is going to be the night of, he says, ihda wa ishrin, either the 21st or the 20th. The 21st night or the 20th night, which is going to be the eve of the what day?
22nd or 21st.
Wahakillah. Everybody clear on this? When the moon is sighted, the people make tarawih before they start
They're fasting.
fasting. They pray at nighttime before the fast comes. So the same applies to tarawih. So as we've said, the last 10 nights could be 10 or they could only be 9 nights. But you start off when? Based off of your schedule. So if you fasted 20 days already, that night, the Maghrib time is when you're going to start your what?
Itikaf.
If that's what you plan to do. Now you only may stay in the masjid for 9 days. The moon may be sighted, or it may have a full 10 days. So when they say the last 10, it doesn't mean that it's always what? 10. Everybody got me here? This is crucially important now. It doesn't mean that it has to be what? 10. It can only be 9 or 10. But obviously, round it off, you go to the largest number. The author even says, rahimahullah ta'ala, as far as the hadith that says that whenever the Prophet ﷺ wanted to make itikaf, he would offer salat al-fajr, then enter into his place of itikaf. He says this doesn't mean he would go in the masjid for fajr time, but it means that he would go into his actual tent or section at the time of fajr, away from the people. This is the author's view that he was already where? No, in the masjid. He was already what? In the masjid. Then he would enter his place of
Itikaf.
meaning his section after the Fajr prayer. He then says, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, as far as making the last 10, when do you leave? Then he says, بَعْدَ غُرُوبِ الشَّمْسِ. He says, after sunset on the last day of Ramadan. After the sun has set on the what? The last day of Ramadan. Either the 30th day of Ramadan or the moon has been sighted for Shawwal. After Maghrib time, then you can leave. He says that's according to Imam Abu Hanifa and according to Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah. As far as Imam Malik and Ahmad, they say, in kharaja ba'da ghurub ash-shams ajza al-tayyib. Khayran mashi. Some of them even say that you should stay in the masjid until it's time to go out for the Eid. Until it's time to go out for the what? Now obviously, how can you do that? Take a shower, brush your teeth, groom yourself, put on your nice fancy clothes, smell good, etc. Get your family together. I'm not doing that or not. So that's something which should be considered at what? As well. That should be something which should be considered as well. خيرا إن شاء الله تعالى. وروى الأثرم بإسناده عن أبي أيوب عن أبي قلابة عنه كان يبيت في المسجد ليلة الفطر ثم يغدو كما هو إلى العيد وكان يعني في اعتكافه لا يلقى له حصير ولا مصلى يجلس عليه كان يجلس كأنه بعض القوم قال فأتيته في يوم الفطر فإذا في حجره جويرية مزينة ما ظننتها إلا بعض بناته فإذا هي أمة له فاعتقها وغدا كما هو إلى العيد. وقال إبراهيم كانوا يحبون لمن اعتكف العشر الأواخر من رمضان أن يبيت ليلة الفطر في المسجد ثم يغدو إلى المصلى من المسجد ومن نذر اعتكاف يوم أو أيام مسمى أو أراد ذلك تطوعا فإنه يدخل في اعتكافه قبل أن يتبين له طلوع الفجر ويخرج إذا غاب جميع قرص الشمس سواء كان ذلك في رمضان أم في غيره. He mentioned some narrations here from the Tabi'een. The first one is mentioned by Al-Athram, that goes back to Abu Ayyub, that goes back to Abu Qilaba, that he used to spend the night in the masjid on the eve of Eid. On the eve of Eid al-Fitr. he would stay in the masjid. Then in the morning time, he would
Come up.
go out. Why would he go out? Because they only prayed Eid where?
No,
In
open.
an open place. They didn't pray Eid in the what?
Masjid.
In the masjid. It's not haram to pray Eid in the masjid, but some of them say it's preferable to pray Eid where?
Outside.
In an open place for wisdom. People seeing the Muslims, well, obviously, you can't even say that. Rather, لِإِغَاثَةِ الْمُنَافِقِينَ, because there were no kuffar living with the Muslims like that, unless they were Ahlul Dhimma, the Jews and the Christians under the protection, and the hypocrites to show the strength and the power of Islam, or to hold the large congregation of the Muslims. Right, move forward. He says here, he mentioned some narrations of how they would go out the masjid after the nighttime, in the morning time when it was time for Eid. Kama huwa, as they were. Getting washed, getting dressed, doing this, they were what? They would go out just like that. Khayran inshaAllah ta'ala. Last but not least, he says here, that's with regards to the last 10 nights. As far as someone who wishes to make itikaf for a specific amount of days, whether it is obligatory because of a vow, or whether it is something which is just sheer recommended itikaf, then he can go into itikaf. He says, قبل أن يتبين له طلوع الفجر ويخرج إلى غاب جميع قرص الشمس. Before Fajr time and leave, when it's Maghrib time. It's a difference between the last 10 and between general what? Itikaf. Alright, on this? There's a difference there. It's a difference. طيب خير إن شاء الله. قال ابن حزم لأن مبدأ الليل إثر غروب الشمس وتمامه بطلوع الفجر، ومبدأ اليوم بطلوع الفجر وتمامه بغروب الشمس، وليس على أحد إلا ما التزم أو نوى، فالنظر اعتكاف شهر أو أراده تطوعا فمبدأ الشهر من أول ليلة منه، فيدخل قبل أن يتم غروب جميع قرص الشمس، ويخرج إذا غابت الشمس كلها من آخر الشهر سواء رمضان وغيره. طيب, to the end of those details, that's all we'll take today. And بإذن ta'ala, when we finish, hopefully we have enough time to refresh on the fiqh of Eid. بإذن subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.